Okay, my generation was the generation, or I guess our generation was the generation of it's smart to go to college. It's smart. You should go to college. You should go to college. If you graduated college in 2008, you had a 1% chance of getting it to the same point as people who graduated college in 2012. You're stuck. You're stuck. You will never, ever, ever make the amount of money that they did. And you are stuck because you did the right thing, because our economy
at the wrong freaking time.
Yeah.
And
you did a smart thing, and it bit you in the ass.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to Idea Drop. Dustin here is taking off 7 days for his anniversary, and I'm not sure how I feel about that as his partner. I feel a little bit left out, and I don't know why Emma gets so much priority over his time. That feels unfair to me. Emma has only cost Dustin money. I am here trying to help him make money. Dustin, your response?
Yes, it is true, and I feel bad. I will in turn plan a 7-day vacation with you, and we 7 weeks.
Could you imagine? 7 weeks, but I would settle for 3 weeks. Honestly, the extra 4 weeks.
Yeah,
I'll take
3 weeks to do something fun. Maybe 1 week to kind of go, I don't know, zip lining somewhere. Who knows?
I'd like to float down the what's that river in the Grand Canyon with you?
That would be fun.
Yes.
There are some vacations that I can't do with Emma that I would love to do with other people. One is like extreme hiking. I don't think she'd be up for that, but I love that idea. I want to hike to base camp. I want to hike like the Dolomites, all that stuff. I think you'd be great with that. I think you'd be fantastic. Yeah. So we could do that anytime. Or like
I still need to do Mount Shasta. Stuff. You could just come do Mount Shasta with me in 2 days.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. I haven't scheduled it. I
would love to do it.
My grandpa can still do it, but I'm not even. I'd have to train for 3 months. I think
it's just hard. Yeah,
but I would do it. Hard. Yeah.
I do it in California. I hiked every day. You know this. That was my thing. I just loved it. Hiked and listened to podcasts. Anyways, hey, welcome to Idea Drop. We're gonna share some ideas today. Kendall, I'm gonna kick off with the first idea. I have one for you. I've been saving it. I haven't told anybody this because I wanted to do it myself. But you know what? Screw me. I haven't done it, so I'm going to give it away to you. Here it is. Social Ranker. So all you have to do is go to all of the big major social apps and you scrub exactly who has the most followers, who those people are following, count their followers, and then go 3 layers deep with everything. And then you take everybody on all the different platforms and you rank them. You give them a score from highest amount of followers to the least amount of followers. You don't have to do everybody. You just have to do the top 10%. And then that is how you know how much its social weight is. So let's say Obama is following somebody and that person, that imaginary person, doesn't have a lot of followers, but they're followed by Obama. That increases that person's social weight. So then you could reach out specifically to that person.
Social influence. Okay, and then you sell this data. Wait. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tell me the rest of the business model.
Well, yeah, basically you go to it and it's... you can use that information to contact the individual and say that's essentially the dollar amount of what they're worth. Like you say, hey, you're worth percentage-wise like really high up on this list. Even though you don't have a ton of followers, your followers are only famous people. And so your influence is massive. You know what I mean?
Dustin, you have this problem where you're brilliant and you never quite tell me how your idea makes money.
That's why I partner with you, Kendall. Okay, how do I make money?
Can I make this make money?
Yeah. Let's make money.
Okay, screw all the work that goes into contacting Obama and all the other influencers. But now that you have this data, thank you for capturing this data. You need to sell this data. You need to ask yourself, who stands to gain the most if they have access to this information? Okay, that's step one. Okay, of the people who stand to gain the most, of the top 3 to 5, who has the most money? Okay, rank them. Okay, of the top 2 or 3 people on this list who have the most money and stand to gain the most, who has the most liquidity, meaning cash on hand, not necessarily assets? It's the marketers with budgets for growth.
So you just sell
the CMO, you've already been given a discretionary budget, and basically every year, I mean, CMOs basically get fired in January. That's what happens. Hey, you didn't do it last year. You're fired. Hey, you did do it this last year. Here's your bonus. That's how that works. You contact CMOs and you say, in your industry, I promise to only sell this to 3 of you. The question is, in this industry, the widget XYZ industry, is it going to be you? Because I know you already reach out to influencers, but you don't know who actually has the most influence and weight. I do. And only 3 of you will get the data. Please call me. Please talk to me if you want to negotiate a licensing agreement for the data. We promise to keep it ongoingly updated and accurate. And the longer you want to sign a private agreement with us, the longer you have it on lockdown. You want to sign a 5-year agreement? That's 5 years where it won't go to anybody else in your industry.
Do you think this would work?
I do. I do think this would work.
I think
there are already people who do the sales process I'm talking about on other things. So ad buyers do this. So what I would do is I would go scrape the data, put it all together. You probably can pull this off. Go to independent, not ad buyers. I said ad buyers, ad brokers who talk to ad buyers, right? Brokers have contacts who are ad buyers. Hold them to this model I'm talking about. You know, they have to sign an agreement that says they won't break this or you'll sue them. And they become your sales channel for these negotiations, and they make a huge percentage of the fees, and they go do all the salesmanship. All you're doing is providing the ongoing good data and the brand that backs up that this data is the best social weight.
Yeah, social weight.
We call it social heavyweights.
Yeah, it's social weight essentially. And you can also do it within different, like if they say, hey, our avatar is this famous person, then you can say, okay, fantastic. This famous person is connected to all these people. You actually want to talk to these people because this person costs $10 million. You can't get Gary Vee, but you can get Gary Vee's friends.
Correct. Yep. But they will discover that if they have access to the data. So you'll tell them you'll be able to discover that on your own if you have access to this data. Yeah. You will be able to figure out who influences Gary. Right?
I like that.
This is a good one. I give it on a doability scale, I give it like a 6. On a high, like a profitability scale, I give it a 9. On a scalability scale, I give it an 8. On a effort scale, that's kind of doability. Yeah, I think it's solid one.
Your difficulty with it is scraping. It's really hard to scrape these websites because they constantly change it. It makes it hard. So you would need a little bit of human API, I think. So yeah, you scrape as much as you can, and then you hire outsource people.
Yep. And you get people in the Philippines. We do Cairo, places where they need a good job. They need a good middle class stable job. You provide that, but you can hire 10 people for the price of 2. And you can get them an office space, and they can get really good at what they do. I once paid a few $1,000s a month for a marketing service that gave me data. And what they promised, they showed me their approach of their manual human labor that would dial and check phone number data and email data manually, not automated. And they said, so we can get through our list like about every 4.5 months with the current amount of dials we make in-house just to verify data. We're not selling anything. Every 4.5 months, you know that this data is accurate within 4.5 months. And that is our service level commitment to you, Mr. Customer. So if you give your customer that level of sense of safety, I'm good. I understand you can't make it perfect. Just make it close.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's great. Dude, you remember yesterday, or it wasn't yesterday? Last time we had an episode, we talked about
that far back.
We talked about doing a newsletter business. Okay, we also talked about doing a test business where you look at any major test and then you do things for the test. So I checked with ChatGPT. I plugged in, a few example questions for the GMAT, right? It's a big test for grad school, and it gave me new example questions. A lot of companies make a lot of money doing this. And I do think you could build a service pretty relatively easy where people pay in, let's say $300, and you guarantee, hey, if you can get through our program, you will pass this with X amount of grade. And all you have to do is vary the questions from difficulty. Dustin. And if they can pass the entire course that you create for them, and the AI is running the whole thing, they know his weak points. Like, he always gets this question wrong. So you have to feed it, teach it how to do that, and that, and that, and that. And then once you get to the end, they pass. and you get your $300 if they don't pass for some reason, whatever. But they didn't have, you give them the $300 back, but they will because you have created a course and you know exactly where they're not.
Oh my gosh! And you can go to all the other test prep companies. You sign up for those companies. You get their questions. You drop those into ChatGPT, and you get new questions straight off of their questions.
Exactly.
And you just offer it for a lower price and like a faster set of delivery with a more modern looking landing page.
Dude, no. Yes, that. But like, I would pay a lot of money if somebody guaranteed. If somebody said, "Hey, I guarantee you're going to get this grade." And it's actually pretty easy to guarantee it if you feed them questions that are exactly the difficulty and you can tell that they pass with X percentage. You have to do a guarantee service.
I guess if I was CEO of the company you're proposing, I would run both brands in parallel. I would have my cheaper brand, my Walmart hamburger, and I would have my steak burger. And your steak burger over there does run the risk of being over-engineered because you have to do guarantees and spend a lot of time with the feedback loops. I agree it can be done, and I agree it should be done, and I agree people will pay more for it. But it is a smaller market. I mean, I'm channeling like my inner Lori Grenier and Barbara Corcoran. I'm like, this doodad only has a smaller market if you put the price point up there. But if you can get the price point down here, so many people take this test. And now you just made it cheaper for me to get good test prep. I think you'll have both. And the interplay between both is perfect. So the people who want guarantees pay a lot.
I think you could charge a lot. Okay, because these guarantees are that's the difference between the person going to Harvard and any other college. And so people kill themselves. Like they do drugs to take these tests because it changes their entire life.
It's just a smaller market. So This is the ice cream truck problem, right? Do you remember the ice cream truck program when you were in like first grade? You didn't do this program? So basically they give you this little computer program and they say, hey, your job is to sell ice cream. And you pick which park, which time of day, how much you want to charge for the ice cream, and here's what the ice cream costs. And it gave you 5 different types of popsicles and ice cream, and they all had different costs. And you picked how much you charged. And then it would give you back results of here's how much money you made today after you paid all your expenses and your labor and for your truck gas. And you would experiment with like, oh, when I sold this popsicle that cost me 75 cents to make for $2.25, I made a lot less money than when I sold it for $1.75 in total because so many more people wanted it for that price. I don't know why, but there's just a reality where you can sell sometimes 100x more of the things when you drop the price by 3 times, I think if you do both, you're not leaving anything on the table.
Okay, that's fair. I think this is a really good business idea. So much so, I say this a lot, but maybe I should do this one because what you could do is if you build the website, all you have to do is just copy paste for every different type of test.
If you're listening to Dustin, and you have listened to Dustin for many months, go through this line of thinking many times. I invoke your inner servant. Will you contact us? DM us. And Dustin needs some business partners. I think he needs 3 slightly technical business partners. He has more platform. He has good ideas. And he is going to be able to drive things to completion, but he needs help getting it done. And he can't pay cash out of pocket for this labor and all these unknowns. He needs to feed his family. So I think there are about 4 businesses you should be doing right now, but I think you need a team of 4 to pull them off simultaneously.
Dude, I would partner with people on this. Actually, that would be a really fun thing.
I think you could do this with one person. You could do the last one that we talked about with the social weight with one other person, right? Just some people who can do what you're doing in your free time.
The social ranker requires a little bit more of upfront capital. This requires extremely little upfront capital.
How though? What capital?
Because if you can build a scraping program for most of it, I think you could pull it off for Instagram, but you can't pull it off for TikTok. They prohibit it. But you can do visual scraping. It's not as easy. So essentially, you have to get outsourced overseas labor for that one.
Or you patch together the data that already exists and then you upgrade it after you get revenue in. So there's already, you have to go hunt down the people who are already getting the data creatively because they exist. They're just not necessarily pulling it together in the business model you talked about. So that is a lot of work. Someone has to do that investigation, and maybe it doesn't exist, but probably it does. It's just a lot of work looking for it. Okay. My business partner in Bangalore, right, which is like the San Francisco, Silicon Valley of India. So much so that the salaries there are like $100K for a good engineer. It's crazy. Whoa. Yeah, and it's beautiful, and the culture is sophisticated and technical and high English communication. Anyways, it's a sweet city. My partner there has a team of maybe 25 or so in office. And he just moved to Dubai. Ask me why. Do you know why?
I have no idea. Why?
Taxes.
Oh,
he did not want to get taxed on our buy-in to his business. So, it's a whole thing. So
don't tell me you want to start a tax evasion company, because that's just too risky. Don't do it.
Great. So our conversation this morning was about his new product idea, but I'm looking at the Dubai, skyline behind him. He's in a hotel right now. He has taken the very concepts that we know to work, where you take podcasting as discussion, and you can get really good like clip content out of that, because they're nuggets as you just are yourself. As long as you have some level of expertise, capturing yourself in the wild and then having an editor chop that up is the best way of not having to become an actor or a guru or a teacher or whatever. All that stuff sucks. Well, he's like, CEOs have this problem. In B2B businesses, LinkedIn is the only channel that really matters. I'm going to not do podcasting, but I will interview them myself once a month. And then my editor, my social content manager, using AI, transcripts, chopping it up to different types of assets, long form blog generation, are going to use their actual words and their best videos, medium videos, long videos, short videos from my interview with them. Because he's sophisticated and knowledgeable and broad in his knowledge, he's going to be able to give the best interview. You could never hire somebody to be as effective at interviewing as he would be. He's like, I'm just going to do that once a month, which is my account management meeting as well. So now I save costs on my account manager that would normally meet with them once a month to keep them happy. But also my networking is really strong. And so I get to talk to CEOs every month, many of them. And so he's trying to get this down to $500 a month to do this for them, where their social presence on LinkedIn gets absolutely obsessed over. It uses Dripify for automations. It uses long form and short form and medium form posting for social proof. And it's always connecting you to the people that your business must be a thought leader within. So it's not broad LinkedIn stuff. It's not randomly viral. It's like the guest Josh we had the other day in Loan Officer Land. He would just go after, maybe entrepreneurs, and he would do his home buying, message to entrepreneurs. He could hone in on that one thing on LinkedIn, and it would be $500 a month for him to just show up to a 1 hour call, and the ball rolls downhill. They would just do their Zoom call on Riverside. That's it.
It's smart. Has he started it?
He's starting it this week. He has 5 customers this week.
First week. I want to see it.
Yeah.
This guy's a smart guy. I've had one conversation with him, and I was very impressed in the one conversation
we had. He is a smarty pants. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, his last, the business that he didn't own, but he was chief of growth for, was a Y Combinator business that immediately after like 3 years had an exit. And then the business he's running now, the marketing business he's running now, is this cross section of service, strategy, and productizing marketing like this. Like this is something that you do manually, manual editing, manual writing, manual strategy, but you push the price point down to a point where it's a no-brainer for people, so that you get enough customers to then pay for the automation and integration that would use AI to chop up the videos, that would use AI to edit the content, that would use integrated with AI postings. And you basically then just have to have editors and admins watching, quality controlling the AI outputs, and your customers get the cheapest possible cost on a high quality presence. I thought this was brilliant. It doesn't make a lot of raw margin per customer, but what it does do is it immediately funnels a massive network of CEOs into conversations in his hands while paying for itself, and then he can sell his higher end stuff. And
okay, I like this. I think it'll work. My hesitation was, what if these people don't interview well? Now, I take that back a little bit, because CEOs typically are great.
Correct.
They're wonderful to talk to.
They're the
experts.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they can't, they're probably running a failing business, and they're going to fail soon. So
it's so sad how that's really like CEOs, like the intersection of like EQ and IQ.
Yeah. Or salesman, marketer, and ops. Like it's a weird person who operates these businesses. But also, I told him he could charge a lot more for it, and he's like, I don't want to, because I want them to tell their buddies.
How much is he
charging? I want their buddies to $500 a month.
I want to see this. I want to see this model. I'm really curious.
I'm going to have a whole checklist. I will release the checklist in the group maybe once I have it in my hand. So I'm getting his Notion doc with a whole checklist of workflows and what we do, all the steps. And I can post it with examples if he'll send them to me. But maybe by the time this airs, I will have that in my hot little hands.
Yeah, we should. Before we jumped on this podcast, you did some fun math, and the number that you came out to was, for every 1 minute of content we put out, there are 1,100 people listening, like 1,100 minutes of listening.
Of other people, watching or listening.
Is a terrifying thought, and an awesome thought. So with that small statistic on its own, like the numbers are astronomical. If you can even tap into that thing, into that general like churn, I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm saying this is a really good business idea for him. He should do it. It's fantastic.
Yes.
It's so smart.
It is so smart. And I'm really happy to own half the business.
You own half? I thought you owned like 25%. Yeah.
Actually, we did sell 10. We traded 10 to a venture capital firm. So we own 40%.
Oh, well, that's good.
But we're happy to have the VC involved. A rising tide and all that. I'm also happy that Shrey is tax-free now in Dubai. As a Californian American, that is not my reality. And
should we? Okay, we should. I mentioned very quickly, making a tax evasion business is bad business. It's dangerous business, but it is also really effective business. I think it's crooked. Because
I wouldn't do a tax evasion model. First of all, tax evasion is admitting guilt. This isn't evading. This is following the rules. These are following the tax rules.
But like the spirit of the law and the letter of the law, you completely eject the spirit of the law.
What I wouldn't do is I wouldn't do content to market that business, right? So
you just reach out to extremely specific firms and be very quiet about it.
Yeah, like if we were going to be involved in any business like that, we should stop talking about it. But because it's kind of like, remember the loan episode? I was like, so what you're saying is...
Yeah, that was great. That was great. It be known, I'm actually very morally against it, and I would never, ever do a business like that. But there are a lot of companies that benefit from it. Netflix in particular. I'm mad at Netflix. They paid $0 in taxes. Was it last year and the year before? Because they had their entity in Ireland. I think it was Ireland. It's awful.
I mean, if you really step back and you go, so Netflix, most people maybe don't know this, but if you read Reed Hastings' book, you will see that they tend to pay 20% above market for any expert job. And then they brutally fire if you aren't the best that they can find of your thing. And everybody knows it because that's the culture. Only people who think of themselves as like the all-star on the soccer team, and I have this competitive streak in me that must win. Those are the people who go work for Netflix by culture. And what that creates is compensation climbing like crazy. So we're talking about $400,000 salaries, $600,000 salaries, $1.2 million salaries, not equity payouts. And then you look at the data of, oh, they didn't pay taxes. So, I mean, to be fair, the guy who made $600,000 or the gal who made $1.2 million, they paid plenty of taxes in their income tax. So the taxes were paid from the customer revenue.
Half of their tax. Yeah. For the employees.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of tax that was paid. But your one rub of like the corporate tax is basically dodged is mostly because they can, they will. And so where does that money go? To their people. They basically just increase expenses, which is payroll. You just increase your expenses. They don't not pay taxes and then pay out shareholders, which is a bass-ackwards thing about public markets. So if you want to fix this, you don't do it with laws. You do it with regulating that's laws. You regulate the ultimate incentive, which is the way that the New York Stock Exchange and any kind of exchange for stock is operating at an incentive level. I can put my money in the S&P 500, and other people's analysis of the documents that these companies release once a year or once a quarter affect the market rate of my stock, not the cash they earn or pay out, because they rarely pay out profit. They just don't pay it out. It literally stays in the system. So it doesn't get taxed. If they don't pay it out, it doesn't get taxed. Meanwhile, the worth of my stock goes up. So I am getting richer. My net worth is going up, and they're not paying it out, and the government cannot tax it. The only real way that taxes are paid out are when they pay a salary, mainly. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Be honest with us.
It's the thing I always say. I want to believe that we live in a merit-based society, and I know we don't, but I want to make it as close to that as possible.
We live in a Monopoly game. It's a game.
Yeah, we do. You're totally right. That's actually probably a really good representation of what we live in. I just wish we were all playing by the same rules. You would probably run your company very different if you didn't have to pay taxes this year or last year, right? It would just change how you think about it.
So, in general, most businesses don't pay taxes because most businesses have an infinite appetite for growth, which is an infinite appetite for expense.
That's like a public thing. If you're not public, you want profit. You want that there because it's safety, right? In public, it's just grow. So you're like net zero.
No,
net zero.
Even we could have used that. We could have used that. Company. Why would I be a $20 million company and not want to grow?
You do want to grow, but like margin for safety, right? So that's your profit, right?
Yeah, but your margin for safety, let's say it's 10%. Let's say I could profit $2 million off the 20. That'd be a doable thing. Why would I pay that out to myself and pay $1 million in taxes, which I know is your complaint, is that we're essentially not paying taxes on that money.
Yeah.
Versus, follow me here, that same $2 million could buy $2 million of marketing agency time of some expert marketing agency that will grow my business from 20 million to 25 or 30. Follow the 2 million.
Okay.
The 2 million went to that agency. That agency pays what? Labor.
Yep.
That labor gets paid in salaries. If they're high salaries, it's taxed the hell out of it. The government probably gets $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
If they're low salaries, this is where you should be complaining. If they're low salaries, the government gets nothing because our bottom classes pay nothing. So by having that system, what we're doing is we're robbing the public's money from the system. It ultimately isn't getting paid out. And now we can't care for the poor because we don't have enough money to care for the poor. Why? Because of the way that our tax rates work, where that money is spent on where most people work at the bottom and middle class doesn't get taxed. We aren't capturing it. But what you could do is you could say, regardless, like in a flat tax society, the government would always get paid. The government would be able to have stabilized income. These games wouldn't mean Google, who suddenly got rich, figures out how to pay zero. Although they are paying a lot via the $600K salary, to be fair. But their incentives, like if they productize anything to a low pay level, that's when the government doesn't get paid. The person isn't really getting paid. It's so funny. Like, we've created a system that isn't fair, but it props up that lack of fairness by having dumb incentives. It's just dumb design, basically.
I'm not a tax expert, and so I can't say anything like too informed on this.
That's okay. We'll get corrected.
But it's pretty obvious that we've created a system that is not built around upwards mobility, which is the hallmark of America. So I'm pretty pissed about that. I do think that flat tax is a terrible idea because we do need to make room for upwards mobility. Graduated tax system, I agree with. I think it's fantastic because once you have the like if you have $1 million, it's way easier to make $2 million. I
don't think it's good for the public. I do think it's good for individuals. Ironically,
no. It's okay, the big problem that we have, there's so many big problems. And also, I don't have the right language for this. But the big problem that we have is that the tax holidays that are happening, right? So if let's say I make $300K and I'm paying X percentage on that, let's say it's 50%, and then a person who makes $3 million found a way to pay 24%, that's the problem. That's the problem with it right there. And that happens. That happens all the time.
Yeah. The person who collected $3 million in this example, to be clear, does not get $3 million of money sent to their account, in their checking account at Chase. And
no, they move it around. It's very, very, very.
And when you say move it around, to be clear, they buy things that the government says don't get taxed. That could be, I bought dinner at a nonprofit event. That could be, I bought these holdings in a company that has a tax haven. There's all these weird little tax havens that you buy something of value, but you don't get taxed on it now. But anytime they want to sell that thing later or cash out that thing or realize that value, if they want to realize that value in liquid form, then they will pay very heavy tax, 50% tax. What the game is you never need liquidity. And so, ironically, the person making $3 million a year of profit, let's call it, probably only takes $300K of income. Now, they have a lot more options than everybody else. What we could do is convert our tax holiday outlier situations to things that are good for production and economy, and that would create a rising tide. So if my tax havens were go employ 10 people who make less than 40K, get a tax haven, then we can balance out some of the benefits to both parties. We can get more cash to the poor, and we can get incentives for the people with upper mobility.
Man, it's so complicated. This system is built on, like, if I pull this lever, what will happen in 10 levers down the road? So it's very difficult to say this is the right way, this is the right way, right? Like, logically speaking,
there's not one system that will work.
Here's a really good example. So logically speaking, if you raise the price of parking meters, right? Like I have a street on a city and I'm raising the price of parking meters, then the city should make more money from those parking meters. Well, actually what happens is the city makes less money. Why? Because people are now worried about it, and so they never ever park there and they never get charged. So then the city makes less money. Taxes and the economy is kind of like that. We think something's going to happen, but actually it doesn't. It's really, really, really complex stuff. I want to come back to this, but I want to get some real statistics and real information because I'm blowing hot air. I don't have good information on this to give to you. I will freely admit that. So I would like to.
Well, we aren't going to solve America's problems.
No, I think we can. I think we should. I want
to
try. I do want to.
You want to try?
Yeah, because
it would be fun to get Caleb and Michael Miller in on a discussion around this.
Dude, we need to get an economist. I think we should level up. I think we should get a real economist on this. Yeah, let's find an economist and get somebody.
Just because they're an economist doesn't mean they're right, because economists can't agree either.
No, but they have more data than us.
Oh, for sure.
You are probably
time spent thinking about this.
Exactly. So I want somebody who's smarter than us.
Yes, agreed. I was going to study macroeconomy had I stayed in school. I wanted a PhD in macroeconomics. So cool, man. I still might do some upward studies like that, because I am a big believer that we have created our own hell. And through poor design and lazy thinking and complexities that are hard to communicate. So basic communication barriers. We overgeneralize, and overgeneralizations generally create systems that are easy to exploit. Easy to exploit makes people who are in pain find the exploit and then feel dopamine once they're in the exploit. Therefore, gamifying exploitation. I really believe we need to simplify our system and then go through multiple iterations of how it actually affects us experimentally, which hurts people. Experiments hurt people. And that is a sad reality of the change that I believe must happen.
They don't have to hurt people. You can experiment on the other side. You can say, okay, this is what's happening. Let's try something different. Like there's been lots of experiments with universal base income, and
I mean actually roll out things and see, because it's so complex. To your point.
Okay, but like rolling out things is very difficult. For an example, so the Nixon administration, they introduced price fixing, right? So the gallon of milk should never cost more than $5, right? So they put that cap on there.
They're trying to anchor it. Yeah,
exactly. And it did really good things for the Nixon administration. It screwed up the economy afterwards. Yeah. It totally blew it all up because. Yeah, but then on the other side, we want that. When do we want that? We want that for the price of insulin, because people need to be able to get it without having to like kill themselves for, it's just, or sell their kidney. So it's an extremely complex and difficult thing to do.
I do think with the advancing of technology, right? So if you listen to the All In podcast, they brought up multiple times this last year that the cost of technology and cost of energy basically go to zero. Think of a backwards exponent. So basically comes down, approaches zero the more advanced we get. The true cost of it, not the market price, the true cost of producing energy. For example, solar. We don't run out of sun, and we already made the panels. So why is this still expensive? Market forces. That's why. But the raw cost of things after time and through advancement comes down to zero in tech and energy. With the compounding rate of growth in quantum computing, AI, language models, the training of humans on how to work with AI language models, these things are driving the cost of information and creation of certain types down to zero, and we'll keep doing that for a while. The thing that will jack that up is invisible market forces, typically temporarily. So in the long con, it does make everybody wealthier. But we need a system that allows us to realize and capture. This is why I hate patents. I freaking hate patents. They're terrible. They lock up through law and regulation real innovation that could make people richer. If people are richer, they have more autonomy. If you have more autonomy, you have more margin in life and you have better choices. You could actually get your mental health back because maybe you had 2 hours.
Even there, it's like a really, really terrible thing. Like, oh, should there be a patent on a vaccine for a terrible disease? Probably not. But what if I make a website that I think is actually going to build into a business, but then Microsoft says, oh, that's a good idea, and just does the same exact thing, but can dump $2 million into marketing?
That's fine. You can regulate the outliers. You can regulate the outer ends of any spectrum.
All right, so now we don't want to simplify it. Now we want to regulate it a little bit.
I do want, we should absolutely regulate. You have to regulate. You can't live in an anarchy society, but you need to regulate the outlier ends of your chart here. You've got a top 2% and a bottom 2%. You need regulation for those situations. Do we need regulation for the top 30% and the bottom 30%? No, that creates such a sophisticated complexity that we don't even know how to raise our children now. I don't know what to tell my kids is the truth. I don't know what's
especially
good for
them. Taxes. That's for sure. That's for
or
damn
work,
certain.
Or career advice. Or is it good to have a work ethic? Or is it good to be creative? There is no like. I can't.
Okay, my generation was the generation. Or I guess our generation was the generation of it's smart to go to college. It's smart. You should go to college. You should go to college. If you graduated college in 2008, you had a 1% chance of getting to the same point as people who graduated the college in 2012. You're stuck. You're stuck. You will never, ever, ever make the amount of money that they did, and you are stuck because you did the right thing because our economy tanked
at the wrong freaking time.
Yeah,
and
you did a smart thing, and it bit you in the ass.
Yeah. You got to zig when they zag. You got to understand your context, and you have to be super contextual. Even the advice we give on this show, like, it needs to be applied to your context. So toss out our advice if it doesn't make sense in your context. Don't cling to something that's not contextual. If we aren't talking in your context and we aren't from your context, our advice is bullshit. And if more people would understand that, even though I'm insecure and I'm afraid, and I want advice and leadership and someone to show me the way, you need somebody who's been there before in your context, not someone else's context. I was not a trust fund baby. I also did not grow up starving. Neither of those contexts work for my journey.
Dude,
I was middle class, upper middle class.
Yeah. No, I would love to come back to these. We should really talk about these very specific things, like taxation,
like a show on a show.
We should go for it. But I want to come back and see if I can convert you into my side of thinking, because I definitely lean a different direction than you on this one, and it's really fun.
I will listen. I will certainly absorb the data, but you have to be ready for me to question the statistics themselves.
Dude, this is why I'd be a terrible politician, and this is why I think I would vote for a terrible politician, is because all the freaking idiots not a lot of these idiots, they just say things like they're absolute, and the problem is they're not. They're just not. And it's so dynamic, and it's so difficult.
Anybody that opinionated.
And anybody who's like, yeah, this is the better thing. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, we got to keep on pumping oil. Well, really? Why? Because it might actually be more effective to have the economy kind of dip for the next 5 years so it can skyrocket after that. Who knows, right? But you can't. Absolute statements in terms of economics is like the mark of a fool.
Or anything. Science,
true.
Human studies, marketing.
We have totally diverted from ideas.
This is a great show, bro.
Okay, good.
So I've been thinking.
Good job.
We talked a little bit last episode about this idea of like an after school program, science program.
Yeah.
Would be
I
like
love that idea.
That's
so
kids,
fun.
Right?
Yep.
And if you niche it down, I think it's very doable, very scalable, very profitable. I think that's an extremely profitable one with high passion. I think that the same model applies to adult education. Get away from this freaking e-course guru pay to play shit and go for real trainers and professors, real educators, real people who know how to teach the subject matter. And do it. I know that like there are models that are already doing this for cohorts. Cohort at a time. I think cohorts that are live classes are much better than recordings. Again, it's contextual and it has Q&A involved and it's adapting real time and there's a human connection included. But I think the pricing to value balance can hit such a sweet spot if just simply applied to the after the right hours. So for adults, like for me, I could do it from 8 to 10 p.m. Because that's when my kids are in bed. So give me a cohort give me a Harvard macroeconomics, after hours class once my kids are in bed, which is 8 p.m.
They do have these like adult continuing education things,
but they're super disruptive to your schedule and they're not catered to me at
often. There are a few. So my mom, she actually shout out to my mom. She kicked ass with this. She went and got a degree, when she had, 4 kids or whatever.
Yeah.
And she did it, like night school, right? Put us down, go to school.
Yeah.
Which
But
worked.
that's really hard.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Like, bring
it's
it
so
to
hard.
my computer.
So
bring it to Zoom.
It's there. I think this exists. You're talking about college, man.
No, I'm talking about selling the education model in Zoom classes in a constrained, with a lot of constraints. So remember last time I was like, this is after school care, because it's serving the one problem of like, I got to work till 5, but my kids get off school at 3. It's serving these niche markets. So the breakthrough isn't how to teach or how to charge for teaching or how to teach on Zoom. The breakthrough is aim small, miss small, Mel Gibson. It's like, find the niche of people who have this work schedule and have this demand for certain business classes, maybe, because those ones people will pay more for. And just do it really well in that window. And you can use some of the content for marketing and follow-up stuff later, but don't make it a college. Don't make it a macro vision and then gets muddied. And like, just out-compete. Keep your margin. Keep your cash margins by not letting it slip outside these constraints. So I would even I would do different cohorts per time zone for what I'm describing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Everybody thinks of efficiency wrong. They think, these are my costs. How can I sell more? I think this is the demand in Pacific time zone, Eastern time zone, Central. Here's where the demand window is. Where's your teacher for that demand window? Execute that.
You could, you could just have the same person teach the same thing for 3 hours in a row. If you're, targeting, American
Great.
time
So
zones.
make sure the landing pages, the administration, the calendar, the lingo, the clarity to the audience is like put the words in my mouth that will be easy for me to communicate with my spouse.
Dude, okay. Here's how I would do this. Here's how I would take this class. If it's somebody that I've read about, if Malcolm Gladwell taught a class on whatever, on writing, I'd sign up for that. Heck,
and if
yes,
you had
I'd sign up for
kids,
that.
it would be 8 p.m. And if you didn't, it might be after dinner. It might be 6:30.
Or, so like, just give yourself any type of notoriety and say, hey, I do a live course and I do 4 of these every single night at this time. And if you can make it, that's great. But you have to be there. It's only live.
It's live.
There's no.
We will share
video afterwards.
Tidbits of it, but
little clips here there.
Like that's only for whetting the appetite. If you want the goods,
I think you'd have to be, because you can't just be a person, Joe Schmo. Hey, I'm teaching economics. I don't care. I have no idea who you are.
But Joe Schmo can hire teachers. I'll tell you what. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Like Joe Schmo over here can make a landing page. And I can get bookings based on someone else's face. So I would call your favorite teacher and say, I'll handle this and I will pay you if it becomes real. Will you let me use your face and your claims to make this real? I will handle everything and you have a killer job if it's real, and you would be teacher number 1.
Okay, now you got the wheels turning. I actually kind of like this idea a lot.
Okay, this brings me to a very important point I wanted to make today.
Yes.
People are doing it wrong when they say, how am I going to pull off this business? Because this thing is stuck and I don't know how to do it. How do you do it? That is the wrong question. The right question is, once you identify the problem, who knows how to solve this problem? If you are very good at figuring out how to reach out to the right who with the right offer and the right asks. People like to help. People like to be social. And you just live your entrepreneurial life in this who mental state. You're living the thinking of a billionaire, not a millionaire. That is how billionaires think. Millionaires think hustle.
I agree with you. It is difficult to get to that point unless you have a little bit of like clout or some cash to back you up.
Okay, let's talk about the process of getting clout.
You have to do some projects. Have some measurable amount of success.
Bullshit. Who is the person with the most clout that still likes me? Okay. I will reach out to them and I will get them to spend more time with me and like me more. Who can teach me something that has clout? Who you just keep going back to spending your time with who?
Yeah.
And being vulnerable, honest, absorbing.
Is this why you spend so much time with me?
Yeah. Yeah. I like it when you rub off on me.
Oh.
All right. That's our show.